detail on that. But plus we got to talk what's going on with the Neil Young and Spotify and Joe Rogan news over the weekend. So this Spotify war has been raging all week. And of course, Neil Young self-owned by giving Spotify this ultimatum. You got to choose my music or Joe Rogan's misinformation show. You can't have both. And Spotify said, okay, well, since Rogan is probably our single biggest property and has an audience significantly larger than yours, Neil, you're gone. And they removed his music. Neil Young issued a call for other music artists to remove their music in solidarity and to stand up for truth against the peddlers of misinformation. And a couple of other forgotten boomers emerged for the opportunity to remind the world that they are, in fact, not dead. So I had to listen to a couple of songs from these people to even try to remember who they were.
I don't even know who the hell is that? Niels Lofgren?
Apparently a member of Bruce Springsteen's E Street Band. I don't know who that is. Joni Mitchell. I know
Joni Mitchell. Both Sides Now.
I listened to some of that. I didn't recognize it, so maybe that's just me. And nobody really cares about that threat. But Spotify, there was a threat over the weekend that Spotify apparently has become responsive to. James Blunt of Your Beautiful fame. He said if Spotify doesn't take down Joe Rogan, I will release new music onto the platform. And
no,
that's obviously a joke, but it's a joke from James Blunt himself. So he
really said that?
Along with the Canadian Goose gets a round of applause from me.
Good for him. That's self-aware.
Great.
And he recognizes that everybody hates his music and it's super gay.
I have not heard if Nickelback, and the only thing that could make this better is if Nickelback replied, "Us too, do it." That would be great.
Or Smash Mouth. Ugh.
You know, the Smash Mouth guy retired a couple months ago because he got drunk on stage and threatened to kill one of the people in the audience. I saw the video. That makes
me like them so much more.
Yeah, you should go check it out. Somebody once gave me a death threat. I don't know if that's how the song went when he was singing it, but
I'll kill you.
It was weird. He was wasted and he called out some guy and said, I will kill you.
Have you ever been to a band, to a show where like the lead singer is super wasted? I went to the Counting Crows concert in like 2006 and the lead singer was so fucking drunk, like so drunk that I actually asked for my money back.
Is that do they do the Mr. Jones or Mr. Jones, right?
Yeah.
That has to sound weird by a wasted guy because it's just so high-pitched.
So wasted. And they're good live, but like he changed everything so that it sounded nothing like the studio versions. It was really pissing me off. I was so furious by the end of the concert. Yeah,
that's a gamble. If you don't want to meddle with your greatest hits because that's why people are there. I never understand that. But anyway, seriously, whether it was the James Blunt threat or not, Spotify did cave a little bit over the weekend. They released a statement, they being Spotify CEO Daniel Ek, I guess his name is. It's a whole bunch of nonsense about like, we have rules against misinformation and we're going to make sure our creators understand them. But here's the change. We are working to add a content advisory to any podcast episode that includes a discussion about COVID-19. This advisory will direct listeners to our dedicated COVID-19 hub.
So that's just a little Band-Aid solution. They didn't remove any of the content, so
no, and there's no indication that they are. But this is the sort of move that makes everyone hate them.
Yeah.
And I say this as highly skeptical of the purity of Spotify's intentions here. Are they doing this on a free speech principled basis? Or are they doing it because they paid $100 million at least for the rights to Joe Rogan's show and they can't go back on that business deal?
Yeah.
I think it's probably the latter. Maybe they deserve credit for taking that deal knowing the risks in the first place, I suppose. But you haven't done enough to appease the mob because you haven't done what they demand, which is delete Joe Rogan. And you've conceded enough to piss people like me off, where now you're just putting some Susan Wiki style warning below the video that says, the government says this is wrong. Yeah, I know. I can go to cdc.gov or whatever it is whenever the hell I want. But I went to Spotify.whatever/Joe Rogan to listen to this show. So here I am.
Yep.
Okay. But you wonder, is it just the mob and people all over Twitter this week? I canceled my Spotify subscription. Look at me. I'm going to Apple, because Apple doesn't have controversial shows like this one and a million others that say all the same shit. They act like Apple took a principled stance against Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan has an exclusive deal with Spotify. It's the only reason Joe Rogan's not on Apple anymore.
For $100 million, although that's speculative, but
his show would still be going to Apple if that deal was not in place. But what points of pressure got to Spotify? Was it just their customers, or was it government pressure? We had another case of this sort of thing coming from does the CDC or the Surgeon General count as a White House official? I don't know. Someone in
I guess
Joe Biden's sphere of influence, and someone within the federal government, the Surgeon General Vivek Murthy, gets on MSNBC and Morning Joe and is asked about Joe Rogan's show. And he says, yeah, we got to do more to eliminate this misinformation.
Dr. Murthy, what do you think are the best ways to push back on misinformation about COVID, whether it be Joe Rogan's podcast or all over Facebook?
Well, Mika, it's such an important question because we can have the best science available, we can have the best public health expertise available, but it won't help people if they don't have access to accurate information. Something I've always believed as a doctor is that people have the right to make their own decisions, but they also have the right to have accurate information to make that decision with. I know when it comes to how we root out the misinformation in society right now and give people access to accurate information, these platforms have still not stepped up to do the right thing and do enough, I should say, to reduce the spread of misinformation. This is not just about what government can do. This is about companies and individuals recognizing that the only way we get past misinformation is if we are careful about what we say and we use the power that we have to limit the spread of that misinformation.
Okay.
Aren't you glad we took this smart Indian person from his country and then let him roam free in our country where he's doing so much good?
I don't know
his
his
ugly bastard and trying to censor everybody.
How dare you? I don't know his immigration status. I don't know his history.
He's probably second generation. What's his last name?
Murthy, Murthy.
Pajit nonsense. Okay.
Okay. Note the doublespeak. People have a right to information, by which he means removing information. People have a right to information, therefore we should remove information. I agree that people have a right to information, their own information, or to seek their own information. That's a fundamental principle of the First Amendment. But is he talking about adding information or increasing accessibility to information?
He's talking about removing information and people's ability to get information.
How is the CDC's quote unquote good information, or the federal government's in general, how is that not accessible? Anyone can go get it whenever they want, except for a lot of the, certain pieces of data and studies that don't reach the conclusions that they would like to. And sometimes those are less available very conveniently. But it's a very bizarre argument. People have a right to see information and make judgments for themselves. And by that, I mean, they have a right to the information that I say they should have, which is a very pro-freedom perspective somehow.